I was super nervous to get up here, and God just gave us that song, so thank you. I'm a lot more calmer now. So, I wasn't always a Christian. I grew up in a Christian home. So, my mum was a Seventh-day Adventist. So, it was an interesting childhood I had. Most of my childhood was home, school, and church, and it was very, very legalistic. It was, we had to prepare for the Sabbath every Friday. So we had to prepare so that as soon as the sun set, our Sabbath would start, and it only ended on the following day when the sun set again. So it would be things like cleaning the house, it would be things like cooking food, and we didn't believe in doing any work on the Sabbath, so it was very much, you had to eat the food cold the next day. So coming from a Jamaican household, cold dumpling does not taste good. It's not very nice. But that was my childhood for many, many years, and I always had a slight resentment because I didn't enjoy church, I didn't enjoy God. So when I came of age, I came to about 16, and I said to my mum, I'm not coming back to church, and I stopped going to church. I started to hang out with friends. I started to enjoy what I thought was life, and started having fun, started going places, and with this newfound freedom, I ended up in a relationship, and this relationship it lasted about 9.5 years, from about the age of 17, 18. And at the time, I thought this was amazing. I thought this is exactly what I wanted. But over the course of that relationship, I realized it was actually quite a toxic one. And I actually didn't realize it as I was in it. I only realized it afterwards as God started to reveal things to me when I got saved. But during this time, I was in this relationship, and it was affecting me. It was very difficult. I became at times depressed, and I know a lot of us have experienced that as well. And there was times I would lay awake at night. It would be 3 a.m, total darkness in my room, just staring up at the ceiling, not knowing, what to do. Really, really tough moments. And this was on and off throughout the course of the relationship. I had a really, really good friend, still my precious dear friend to this day. His name is Bruno. So every time I share my testimony, Bruno gets a shout out. He got saved, and I began to see my friend Bruno completely change, and it was very hard for me to accept, because he used to hang out with me, we used to do things together, and that completely started to stop. And Bruno would start sharing the gospel with me, and I'd be like, come on Bruno, you just became a Christian. I've been doing this ages, I've been, 16 years, and I used to kind of lord that over him a little bit. But Bruno was really faithful. He continued to share the gospel with me, and I would hang out with him. I would go to his house, and sometimes Bruno's a really clever guy. He would be like, yeah, come, let's watch a film. And I'd be like, yeah, sure. He'd put on Fireproof. And, I didn't mind. I said, all right, we'll watch it. And, he used to try and share the gospel. And the real stumbling block for me, leading up to me getting saved, was actually the Sabbath. It was, I said to Bruno, look, you've got to worship on Saturday. God made, the everything in 6 days, and he rested on the seventh day. And he said, keep it holy. And I said, Bruno, come on, you're going to church on Sunday, what are you doing? Bruno's like, no, Shamar, you got it all wrong. Jesus is the Sabbath. Jesus is your rest. And I was like, yeah, whatever. It's Saturday. And how wrong I was anyway. But I was still in this relationship, and I was still living in sin, and things were still very difficult for me, and I was still depressed at times, and everyone around me could see it except me. And Bruno kept inviting me to church, and there was times I would visit and I'd think, okay, what lovely people, these guys are great, but I didn't get anything other than these people are great. But there came a time in my life where everything just started collapsing. I can't describe it in any other way. I was very, very depressed, and I had no hope, and everything I was striving for just wasn't going anywhere. I came out of school with not enough qualifications. I didn't have a career path. I didn't have what my other friends had as they were progressing in their lives. And I looked at my life, I was like, what's going on? And then I was in this relationship, and that wasn't going well. And everything I was giving my energy to, everything I was giving my passion to, was failing me. And I had this burning desire. I said, I need to go to church. And I don't know why. But I said to Bruno, I don't know why I've got this feeling I need to come to church. And Bruno got super excited. He was like, yeah, Sunday, I'll be there. And Sunday came. Bruno called me, he said, oh, Shamar, you coming to church this week? I was like, oh, no, I'm sorry, I just woke up, I can't come this week. Bruno being super patient. The next week came, said, Shamar, you coming to church? I'm on my way. He got to about my road, and I cancelled on Bruno as he was at the bottom of my road. And I said, I'm really sorry, Bruno, I'm just not coming. Bless Bruno. He since admitted he was super frustrated and he almost gave up, but thank God he didn't. The following week, Bruno said to me, Shamar, it doesn't matter what you're doing, I am going to drag you out of bed. You're coming to church. And true to his word, he knocked my door, my mum opened it, he came to my room, dragged me out of bed. And yeah, bless Bruno. So we got to church. So his church at the time, and still now, is Shoreline Calvary, North London. And at the time, Pastor Anthony Holliday was the pastor. And Bruno always got there early. Bruno was always serving, helping, setting up. So I came along and I was like, sure, I'll put out some chairs. And everyone was asking each other about their weeks. And we, one by one, went through each other's weeks. And then it came to Pastor Anthony's turn, and he shared about his week, and he said, my laptop broke. And, he continued his story. He said he went to the Apple store and he gave it to a technician, and they said, look, there's something in the background that's clashing and it's stopping your laptop from working. And the technician advised him, and he said, look, the best thing we can do is wipe it completely clean and put on a new operating system, and it's going to work better than it did before. And, me being prideful, I had a great idea. I was like, he's going to share the gospel. Of course he is. And he did. He shared the gospel. He said, that's exactly like Jesus. And he's an American, if you know him. So he's like, it's exactly like Jesus. And he wants to give you a new life. He wants to wipe everything clean and give you a brand new life. And it just wasn't getting to my heart. But what he said next completely just changed everything. he said he found it really difficult. And that's what grabbed me. I said, in my heart, I was like, why? And he said he had so many things on his laptop he didn't want to give up. He had so many things on his laptop he didn't want to lose. He had photos, he had music he'd written. He had so many things he didn't want. And I looked in my own life and I was like, wow, there are so many things clashing in my life, and I don't want to give them up. The relationship, me striving, trying to make things on my own, be a success on my own strength. I didn't want to give those things up, and I had a real honest moment, and I said quietly in my heart, I didn't say Lord at the time, but I said, God, I've made a mess of my life. If you can do better with this mess, then it's yours. And I said that in my heart, and I know now that's the moment I was saved, because later on in the service, as Pastor Anthony was teaching, every single word was hitting me, and I almost felt like he was watching me all my life. Every single word was hitting me. And at the end of that service, he went through the sinner's prayer, and he says, if you want to accept Jesus, you can say this, and he went through it, and I prayed every single word. And this coming October, it will be 7 years. 7 years since the Lord has saved me, changed me. He's done so much in my life, and he continues to add testimonies. That's the beautiful thing. And everyone's given a verse, which has been really encouraging. One of the first verses in Scripture that really spoke to me was from Jeremiah 29:11, and it's always been something that's close to my heart. And it says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope, or a hope in the future." And that's my encouragement to everyone here. And I hope, like me, if you're in a similar situation, that if there are things clashing in the background, God has a plan for our lives, and they are to prosper us and not to harm us. And He wants to give us a hope and a future in Him. So bless you all. Thank you for listening. Amen.